You know, love is a beautiful thing, no matter your age. And if you found someone special later in life, that's something to celebrate. But here's the thing, when you're over 70, remarrying isn't quite the same as it was in your 20s or even your 50s. There are hidden risks, legal, financial, and emotional, that most people don't talk about until it's too late. Maybe you've been feeling lonely, or you've met someone who makes you smile again. That's wonderful. But before you take that big step, let's have an honest conversation about what could go wrong. Because sometimes, what starts as a second chance at love can turn into your biggest regret. But before we dive into this important topic, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up and comment below telling me where you're watching from. I love connecting with all of you from around the world, so now let's begin. Now, I'm not here to scare you or tell you what to do. But I do want you to be informed, protected, and at peace with whatever decision you make. So, let's walk through some of the biggest dangers of remarrying after 70, starting with something many people overlook until it's too late: your finances. Money is already a tricky topic, but when you bring marriage into the picture, things get even more complicated. Imagine this: you've worked hard your whole life, saved carefully, maybe even set up an inheritance for your kids or grandkids. Then, you remarry, and suddenly, your spouse, or even their family, has legal claims to what you've built. It happens more often than you'd think. Even with the best intentions, wills can get contested, assets get tangled, and before you know it, your family is in a legal battle. And let's be honest, courtrooms and lawyers are the last things you want to deal with at this stage of life. But it's not just about money. There's also the emotional side. What if your new partner's family doesn't accept you? Or what if, down the road, health issues change the dynamics of your relationship? Love is strong, but so are the realities of aging. You deserve to go into this with your eyes wide open. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Over this video, we'll talk about the 5 biggest risks, legal, emotional, and even family-related, so you can make the best choice for you. Because whether you decide to remarry or not, the goal is the same: happiness, security, and peace of mind. Let's talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention: how remarrying can completely upend the financial safety net you've spent decades building. Now, I know it's not the most romantic topic, but stick with me, because this could save you, and your family, a lot of heartache. Here's the reality: when you remarry, your spouse automatically gains legal rights to certain assets, depending on where you live. Even if you've kept things separate for years, a new marriage can blur those lines in ways you might not expect. Take, for example, your home. If you own it outright and remarry, in many states, your spouse could end up with a claim to it, even if your children were supposed to inherit it. And then there's Social Security. If you're receiving survivor benefits from a late spouse, remarrying could mean losing that income permanently. For some folks, that's a financial lifeline, gone in an instant, just because they didn't realize the fine print. But here's what really keeps me up at night: medical decisions. If you remarry, your new spouse becomes your default legal representative in emergencies. That means if you're unable to speak for yourself, they, not your children or a trusted family member, will be the one making critical healthcare choices for you. Now, if you're in a rock-solid relationship, that might be fine. But what if you've only known this person for a year or two? What if they have different ideas about your care than you do? It's a risk that's easy to overlook when you're caught up in the excitement of a new romance. I'll never forget the story of a woman named Evelyn. She remarried at 75 to a man she'd known for just over a year. He seemed kind, attentive, everything she wanted. But after the wedding, things changed. Suddenly, he was making decisions about her medications, her doctors, even her living situation, all without consulting her adult children. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late to undo some of those choices. Now, I'm not saying this happens to everyone. But it does happen. And the worst part? Many of these problems could have been avoided with the right legal precautions, precautions most people don't even know they need until it's too late. That brings us to the next danger, one that's just as important but far more emotional. You know, when we talk about marriage at any age, we talk about blending lives. But here's what no one tells you about blending lives after 70. You're not just blending your present, you're blending entire lifetimes of memories, traditions, and yes, baggage. And that baggage? It can get heavy. Let me tell you about my friend Harold. At 78, he met Louise at a bridge club. Both widowed, both lonely, it seemed perfect. 6 months later they married. What Harold didn't anticipate: that Louise's adult children would see him as an intruder in their family story. That every holiday would become a tug-of-war between his traditions and hers. That the photo of his late wife on the piano would become a source of tension rather than comfort. This is the emotional danger we rarely see coming, the silent competition with ghosts. When you've lived 7 decades or more, love isn't just about two people. It's about honoring the lives you've already lived while making space for new love. And that balancing act? It's tougher than anyone admits. Then there's the physical reality. At 70, 80, 90, our bodies change quickly. The partner who was vibrant when you married might need care sooner than expected. I've seen too many late-life marriages fracture under the weight of caregiving that one person simply couldn't handle. It's not lack of love, it's human limitation. But perhaps the most painful danger is the one we're ashamed to talk about, the loneliness that can come even when you're not alone. Because marrying to avoid being lonely sometimes backfires spectacularly. When you rush into marriage out of fear rather than genuine connection, you can end up feeling more isolated than you ever did alone, just now with legal complications. Now, I'm not saying any of this to discourage love. Quite the opposite, I want your love, if you choose it, to have the best possible foundation. Because when we ignore these emotional realities, we risk turning what could be beautiful into something painful. And that leads us to what might be the most surprising danger of all. Let me ask you something: when was the last time you read the fine print on a contract? Now imagine signing a contract that could rewrite the last chapters of your life story. That's essentially what marriage is after 70, except most of us don't realize we're signing away our autonomy until it's too late. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to discuss: late-life marriage often becomes a legal cage disguised as romance. Take estate planning, for instance. That ironclad will you made years ago? A new marriage can unravel it like a cheap sweater. I've seen cases where a simple remarriage meant adult children suddenly disinherited, family heirlooms going to virtual strangers, even beloved pets ending up in shelters because the paperwork wasn't updated. But it goes deeper than possessions. Your very identity can get erased in the shuffle. Margaret, a vibrant 82-year-old artist, learned this the hard way. After marrying a charming retired banker, she gradually stopped getting invited to her own book club. Bob doesn't like those people. Then her painting group, he says we have better things to do. Within 2 years, the woman who once hosted gallery shows became a silent passenger in her own life. And here's what's really frightening: this often happens with the best intentions. Your new partner might genuinely believe they're helping by taking charge. But when you've spent 7 decades building your independence, surrendering it can be more dangerous than any financial risk. The cruelest irony? Many seniors discover too late that they had better options. A committed partnership without marriage can preserve both your assets and your autonomy. But once you say, "I do," unwinding that decision becomes exponentially harder, especially when health issues arise. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most heartbreaking danger of all. After everything we've covered, the financial risks, the family tensions, the loss of independence, there's one final danger that ties them all together. It's the danger of losing yourself in the sunset. Think about it: at this stage of life, you've earned the right to peace. To quiet mornings with your favorite coffee cup. to leaving the TV on your favorite channel without compromise, to grandkids running through the house leaving toys everywhere. These aren't small things, they're the precious textures of your daily happiness. But here's what happens too often: in the rush to not be lonely, people trade their hard-won peace for partnership. And suddenly, you're negotiating what to watch, where to vacation, even how to arrange the furniture in a home that's been yours for decades. The very things that made your life comfortable get reshaped to accommodate someone else's preferences. I'll never forget what Ruth, a 79-year-old viewer, told me after her brief late-life marriage ended. She said, "I didn't just lose my husband when we divorced, I lost my favorite version of myself." That quiet truth haunts me. Because at 20 or 30, we expect to adapt. But at 70 or 80, you deserve to be exactly who you are. Now, does this mean you should never remarry? Of course not. But it does mean you should ask yourself one crucial question: is this adding to my life, or subtracting from it? If it's not an enthusiastic yes to the first part, maybe what you need isn't marriage, but deeper friendships, a vibrant community, or even just the courage to enjoy your own extraordinary company. Because here's the beautiful truth: your life right now isn't a placeholder waiting for romance, it's the main event. Those family photos on your walls, the well-worn chair by the window, the quiet routines you've perfected, they're not signs you're missing out. They're proof you've built something remarkable. So before you consider remarrying, promise me you'll do 3 things. 1. Talk to a financial advisor who specializes in elder law. 2. Have brutally honest conversations with your family. 3. Spend a week imagining your life with this person, not just the good days, but the hard ones too. If after all that your heart still says yes, then go for it with our blessing. But if there's even a shadow of doubt, remember, there are countless ways to find connection without risking everything you've built. Now I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you or someone you love navigated these decisions? What wisdom would you share? Don't forget to like this video if it gave you something to think about, and subscribe for more honest conversations about thriving in your golden years. Because whether you choose love or choose yourself, or better yet, find a way to do both, your happiness matters. Here's to writing your next chapter exactly the way you want it. Until next time, remember, the best love story at any age is the one where you never lose yourself.